Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. I had a super hectic week and finally I got the time to talk about this tournament final. So this tournament is the first strongest Go player tournament. It's literally the name, like the strongest Go player. It's the first time they're having this tournament. This tournament is a little bit special when it comes to the time setting. So the time setting resembles a lot like the chess tournaments where each move would give you 30 more seconds. That's a very common time setting in chess. If you play in chess tournaments, you'll know. But for Go, it's very rare. Go is usually a Boyomi time system. But anyway, this tournament obviously attracted a lot of attention because we're at the final. It's between Korea and China. Shin Jinseo versus Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu is a 6-time professional from China. He's extremely strong and he's the rising new star of China. Definitely in the top 10 of China as well. So if he can make it into the final, that obviously means he's ridiculously strong. And in the first game, he actually won against Shin Jinseo by 0.5 point. The reason I'm not talking about that game is because that game was ridiculously complex and it's hard to comment on. Not because you have like a complex fight or whatever, but it's just the ideas and middle game fights are very chaotic. And therefore I chose to not talk about it because I feel like it could be 1-hour video easily. It's too much content and it's too complex for a lot of my viewers. So I chose the second game. It was a very well played game, a lot to learn from this game. So let's jump right into it. Shin Jinseo starts as black, Xiaoyu is playing as white, and they start out like this. We have the offset 3-4 Fuseki. White approaches, black attaches, and this is all talked about in one of my courses, an hour and 30 minutes long. If you're interested, I put the link down in the description. You can get it from my Patreon page. All right, so white plays a 3-space extension, black pincers, and white directly goes into the invasion. That's all textbook move. The reason is that next move, white wants to attach into black and form over concentration. If black honeys, white will pull stone back, and if black connects, we can see that this exchange is really good for white because it over concentrates black. Therefore, black is not going to fall for it. So in the actual game, black goes for the 3-3 invasion, which is the correct move. White blocks, black extends, white keeps extending, and black keeps crawling. Here, white decides to extend once again. This is a very nice move. If white plays the textbook move, then black is going to hane, and this leaves white in a very awkward situation. White pretty much has to extend once again, right? For example, if you don't, and you play somewhere else, black will immediately drag white into a very fierce fight like this. White extends, black extends, and now we can see that the stone over here is really putting a lot more pressure against the 3 white stones over here. So without the stone, it's already an even fight. But with the stone over here, black is definitely having a little bit of advantage. Therefore, white doesn't really want to go into this fight. So it's very tricky. That's why in the actual game, Xiaoyu decided to simply extend, which is the correct move. Black keeps scrolling, and white now plays the hane. Here, if black decides to cut, that's not a great idea because white can simply extend out. Here, if black extends out, that would be a mistake because white can simply hane connect. And now we can see the corner is in big trouble. Not that it's in big trouble, it's going to be alive, but it will be bullied. Therefore, let's spend a little more time talking about the corner because I feel like it's quite important. So whenever you face this corner, right, as white, the way you bully is to hane connect. And now black needs to either extend into the corner, which is not a great choice because white can hane connect, and that's a sente, right? Black has to extend, or else white has a famous tsuji, that's a peep in here. So black has to extend, and black live with 6 points, and therefore this is a great position for white. White can now take the initiative on the outside, and this group is very strong. So that is not a great idea. But if black plays the hane, then white can turn here. If black plays the tiger's mouth after the hane extend, white can simply play somewhere else. Later on, the extension is a sente. This forces black to hop back, which means that white's group is quite strong. Now at this point, if blacks choose to extend, then there's a lot of aji in the corner. White has a very famous tsuji, that is to peep in. Black blocks, and white plays the jump here. When black connects, white plays the block on the outside, looking at the snapback. Black has to fix, white hanes, black turns, and now we can see that later on white can connect here for a seki in gote, right? So white can later on play this when he reaches the endgame. So yeah, that's very problematic for black, right? Black is left with pretty much no points if that's the variation that black chooses. So at this point, pretty much black has to extend on the second line, but then white can just ladder the stone. So that's not a great idea for black to cut right away. In the actual game, Shin Jinseo decides to take the other corner away. White blocks, and then they played out the exact same variation. And at this point, instead of keep extending, which would not be a great move because black gets the super important move that splits up the two moyo, and now white just feels a little stupid because this move is way too good, right? It suppresses both moyo at the same time. White cannot allow that, and therefore white takes it first. Black harness, black double harness, white simply extends out. And here black plays a very beautiful move. I really like this move. The reason black plays this move is to help out the ladder, right? We said there was a cut and white can ladder, but then after this move, the ladder doesn't work for white anymore. And black is also looking at the ladder over here. If white plays the Atari and try the ladder, guess what? Black already has a preparation move over here. So it's one stone taking care of two ladders. Very creative move by Shin. But of course, this is also a sente against the group over here. Therefore, in the actual game, white had to block. Black harness, white extends, and here black pushes on top, suppressing white and building on top. White Ataris and Hane, and here Shin Jinseo decided to cut. And we go into a pretty fierce fight over here. White Ataris, black extends, white extends, that's a sente, black has to jump, and white pushes once again. Black extends, and here Xiaoyu decide to go for the push and cut. But alternatively, what white could have done is to fix the Aji over here. This is also a huge move. Black blocks, white push and cut, and whether white Atari or not doesn't really matter. Here, white needs to run out. So like this, we can see that, first of all, white secured a lot of territory over here, but also left a little cutting point. And these two groups are just running. So yeah, it's basically both are running, so they're okay. And there's a little cutting point, so there's some Aji on top. So white can choose this variation, it will be equal game as well. In the actual game, at this point, Xiaoyu decided to go for the profits in the center by playing out the Atari and ladder the stone over here. So now black, well, this exchange didn't really help out because, yeah, the ladder still works for white. So at this point, Shin Jinseo turns to punish white for ignoring the weaknesses that white has over here. So this is a very interesting point. If white plays the Hane, then there's a lot to read out inside this area, right? Because black is definitely gonna go for a fight. Black cuts and extend. Here white has to jump. Black pushes and white has to extend. If white plays the Hane, this would be very interesting. The correct move is for black to wedge over here, right? When black wedges, this is collapsing for white. Because if white plays here, which is the best move in terms of squeezing black's liberty, black can simply Atari and Hane. And now we can see this is black kills white. And of course, that's kind of game over for white. And what else could black play? Well, not really, right? If you connect, it's the same thing. I'm able to Hane here, and this is black kills white. So when black Hanes, this is pretty much collapsing for white, right? But if you cut, then that would be a mistake because now white can connect over here, right? That would be a reading mistake that I might have made. So black Ataris, white extends, and now we can see like black only has two liberties here. So if black plays the Hane, white can Atari, and then this is just white kills black, right? So that's a very important detail. It's very important for black to wedge instead of cutting. That makes the difference. That makes the biggest difference. So when black pushes, white needs to extend, and black extends, white extends once again, and black can now play the Kosumi. White blocks, black blocks, and white plays the Hane. Black Ataris, white connects, and black connects. And now we can see inside it's going to be a Seki, but this is white's sente. So white could definitely have played out like this. This would be a better position for white, actually. So the correct move for black is to not immediately rush here, right? Black should leave it here because the Seki is not that big right now, while black should play on the outside. So that would still be an equal game moving forward. So that is kind of what Xiaoyu was worried about, but actually he could have chosen to block here, which is very intuitive. In the actual game, Tu Xiaoyu decided to jump here because he was afraid of the Aji over here, but Shin is doing something anyway, so there's no avoiding of it. White Ataris and black plays the cut. That's a very nice Tsuji. White has to back down here. If white takes, then we have the Atari, and then Atari. White connects, and black plays the tiger's mouth, and this is very big trouble for white, right? This is so hard to deal with. Therefore, Tu Xiaoyu doesn't want to deal with that. In the actual game, white plays very safe by playing the triangle. Black connects, white connects, and now we can see there's a lot of Aji inside here. But for now, Shin decided to not go for any sort of skirmish inside. So playing on the outside obviously is very important. It gets this group safe, but also looking at jumping here, looking at helping the fight over here. White defends, and black now jumps towards the center. White blocks, that's an absolute huge move. And here Shin comes back to secure the corner territory. White Ataris, black takes, and white now plays the Hane on the second line. I'm not sure why Tu Xiaoyu played this move exactly. Maybe he was worried about black's Hane here, right? So when black plays the Hane, it's not possible to block. For example, here if white plays somewhere else, black plays the Hane, and you try to block, then this is going to happen. But when Tu Xiaoyu plays the Hane, when Tu Xiaoyu plays the Hane, later on, if you play the Atari, then white is able to block you. So I think that was the idea, but I don't think this move was necessary, as we will see later in the game. So after black responds, white decides to take a very important endgame over here. This is obviously has a lot of points, right? So if black managed to extend here, that's almost 20 points difference. But here there's another very, very huge move on the board right now. That is for white to Hane connect. This move is absolutely giant because it fixes all the Aji. And also in terms of points, this is a 11-point reverse Sente, which means it's about 22 points Gote. So it's kind of crazy. This kind of move is 22 points in value, like almost. So yeah, that's absolutely insane, right? Because when black plays the Hane connect, white has to respond to it, and therefore that's a Sente for black, and this is a lot of point difference. Well, in the actual game, white plays the Hane here. That's a very big move. And now black decides to attack white in the center. White kicks, black bumps into white, that's a Sente, and then black comes back and block. White Ataris, that's a very greedy move. This group is kind of in danger, but then white still Tanuki and try to take more profits. Here black decides to attack. Of course, white still has no problem living here. Therefore, that's why Tu Xiaoyu took a very big move on the outside. And here, finally, Shin Jinseo comes back and cut white off. This is a problem that existed for a very long time, and now Shin Jinseo is coming to, to attack white. Black extends, and now white plays the Keima. And I think at this point, this is a very important point in the game. When black extends, white simply played a Keima, which looked okay. But actually, this was not so okay. This was actually a mistake, I think, by Tu Xiaoyu. I haven't checked with AI, but I was just listening to the professional commentator. It was one of my favorite professional commentators, and he was saying that this is very clearly a mistake, right, for humans, because the best move here is obviously for white to Hane connect right now. So when white Hanes, black has to Hane, and then black has to live the corner by capturing the stone. Well, after this exchange, then white can do whatever he wants to do, right? Such as playing a two-space extension. We can see that the points difference is absolutely huge. So more precisely, right? White got this Hane connect exchanging with black's capture. Black's capture is like 6 points, but this Hane connect is just way more than 6 points. It's a lot more points. So Tu Xiaoyu, I'm not sure why he didn't do the Hane connect here. And then he just played in the center, which was not optimal, right? Obviously there's a fight in the center, but white should really be very sensitive to points, because Go is a game of points. So Hane connect here was very important for white to do. In the actual game, Shin is also allowing Tu Xiaoyu the chance to come back anytime and play Hane Connect, but Tu Xiaoyu just didn't do it. In the actual game, he pushes on top, black pushes, white blocks, and when black hanes, white hanes, black double hanes, Tu Xiaoyu decides to fight in the center. But really important, like at any point, it's very important for Tu Xiaoyu to come back and Hane Connect because the points is just so big. Okay, black connects and white plays a Tsuji. This would ensure that black cannot block here. If black blocks, white will bump into black, and of course we have a Atari here, so that's going to be a problem. In the actual game, Shin plays the Atari in the center, and white pulls the stone back. Locally, this looks very nice for white because white managed to break into black center. But then, after black plays the Hane Connect, now white has to respond to this or else there's too much Aji in here. Next up, we have Shin Jinseo playing the Hane Connect, and at this point, black is definitely leading with the two Hane Connect. They're both just giant. They're both like 20 points. So white is definitely behind in terms of territory at this point. The reason this is so huge, we'll see that later. So white now has to live the group over here, and at this point, well, so white really wants to like play another move to prevent the clamp over here, but that's not possible because when black plays the peep and extend, we can see that this group is in trouble. So what white played was very important, right, to live here. So there's nothing wrong with this move. But the problem is really earlier that white should have played Hane Connect. Okay, next up, we have black clamping into white's territory. And this is so painful. White had to Hane on top, black Atari, and white plays a Sente over here. Shin Jinseo responds. This is a very nice response because it makes the peep a lot weaker. If black simply connect here, then white can peep and crawl back. And we can see that black's corner still needs one more move, right? Such as the Hane Connect to be comfortable. So playing the tiger's mouth is way better than simply connect because it strengthens the corner a little bit more. So after the exchange, white has to deal with this, and black plays the Hane and extend into white's territory. White had to answer, and this is so painful, right? Because white lost so much territory in Sente, right? Black got this for free. Okay, next up, we have black turning here, trying to threaten the life and death. It's an absolute Sente. White has to attach and push over here. And here, black plays a move in the center. That's a very valuable move because looking at the life and death once again and strengthen the center. So later on, black can build a lot of territory in the center. White now plays the Kosumi. And at this point, this is as I said, because of the mistake that Tu Xiaoyu made by not being very keen on points, now this is a very big leading game. At this point, when white plays the Kosumi, the best move is for Shin Jinseo to play a defensive move over here. But in the actual game, black played the push in the center, and this gives Tu Xiaoyu a lot of chances to come back into this game. So this is a very critical moment of the game for Tu Xiaoyu, and Tu Xiaoyu is definitely low on time at this point. And this is such an important corner that that requires a lot of time to read out. So in the actual game, Tu Xiaoyu played out the second line peep, which is a very nice Tsuji to get a lot of territory. And of course, black cannot block, and therefore black played the turn here, and white crawls the stone back. But here, Tu Xiaoyu had an excellent chance to drag Shin Jinseo into a swamp. The correct play is for white to play the 3-3. So the reason they didn't play out the 3-3 is because they both pretty much they misread. They both misread the variations locally. And the corner is very complicated. So let's go through them slowly one by one. If black connects, then white's gonna Hane Connect and then playing the Kosumi. And of course, this is not gonna work for black. White's corner is too solid. So if black extends, white is going to block in the corner. And this is also not working for black. If black plays the clamp on the second line, then white's gonna block. When black connects, white plays the Kosumi in the corner. Black has to kill this corner by taking a vital point away, and now white can push and then Hane. If black Ataris, white cuts. And this is not a ko, because when black takes, we can Atari from the outside. And now we can see this is white kills black. And of course, if black connects, then obviously that's not going to work because white is just going to play out the Kosumi, and this is likely white kills black. So we said connecting doesn't work and extending does not work, and therefore both players were reading the Hane here, and I believe this is the variation that both of them thought was the correct variation, which is right. And what they were reading is that white plays the Hane, black connects, white has to cut through, and black cuts. White plays the extension, then that's not going to work because black can Atari and Hane. If they keep going with the liberty fight, it turns out that black is going to win by 1 liberty. If white plays the empty triangle, then black can go for the P here. That takes the vital point away from white, and this is also black kills white, and black is just ahead by 1 liberty. So we can see, even if white managed to get the throw in, doesn't really matter because black can squeeze at the 1-1, and this is black kills white. And under time pressure, that's the reading that both of them were doing. But here, white has a very crazy Tetsuji, and it's so hard for humans to find. The reason it is hard is that, you know, if I was gonna tell Shin Jinseo, hey, this is a Sumego problem, right? There's a Tetsuji somewhere, then it only takes Shin Jinseo like 15 seconds to see it. But in an actual game, when no one is telling them that there's something going on here, then it's very difficult for Shin Jinseo to read it out, or for Tu Xiaoyu to read it out. The correct move is for white to cut on the second line, and this is a very brilliant Tetsuji. Against this move, black really doesn't have a choice but to capture white. White can now Atari. Now black is going to capture. Now normally this is a terrible exchange for white. Why would you sacrifice 1 stone for no reason? But then when white push and cut and play the triangle, then we will see the difference. Because now, if black goes for the vital point, white is going to block. Black blocks, white capture the 1 stone. And after black plays the Hane, we can see that if black goes for this route, then this is white kills black, right? Amazingly, our throw-in was able to squeeze 1 liberty away from black, right? Black shape is very terrible, and therefore black cannot fill in anymore. This is I kills no I. So because of this, the most resilient move is actually for black to clamp. And here white plays the Atari, black Ataris, and white is going to, white first will take, and after black finds a co-threat and take back, then we can cut in the center to create co-threats. The problem with this ko is that the next move, black can't really get rid of it. Right? You have to take once and twice. You have to spend 2 moves to completely get rid of this thing. And of course, white also has to play 2 moves to get rid of the ko. And therefore, this is a very complicated ko where none of the players can finish each other off like in 1 move. And then white can create co-threats in the center, and Shin Jinseo has to defend very carefully to not let white get a lot of co-threats. So this game would be very chaotic, right, if white plays out like this. Unfortunately, Tu Xiaoyu did not read this out, and that's very understandable because reading is just hard, right? Sometimes we just miss it. So that was really a great opportunity for Tu Xiaoyu to come back into this game. Unfortunately, he played the 2-3. Now, black's corner is going to be fine at this point. White goes into the center, and black captured the stone on the second line. White now plays the Kosumi. The reason black did this capture is because if black plays somewhere else, later on black was worried about the Hane and white using this code to try to kill the corner, right? But this is not the biggest move on the board, definitely. It's more for safety. So now white Kosumi, black blocks, and white comes back to finally live the group over here. Black connects, and now white prevent these 2 guys from being captured. Black blocks in the center, white Hanes, black Hanes, white extends. And here they're just playing out some endgames. Black now extends, making sure the center is enclosed, and white comes into the center. Black blocks, white harness, black connects, and white plays the monkey jump. Black pushes and wedge and Atari. That's a very basic endgame sequence. White peeps, black connects, and white plays the Hane. This is likely a time Suji by Tu Xiaoyu. And then white plays the Hane in the center. Black connects, and white bumps into black to gain some points. Black plays the Atari, and white captures the stone in the center. Black now blocked in the center, because otherwise white is going to play the Keima. That's very annoying, therefore black had to block that. White Hanes, black Hanes, and white capture the stone in the center. On the third line, I mean. Black Hanes, white extends, and now they start to fight this ko, but I don't think Shin Jinseo really cares about this ko. So white extends, black connects, and white cannot cut through because of the liberty issues that white has. So black's group over here is safe. In the actual game, white takes back, and black cuts, takes back. White finally comes back and connect, because otherwise, so at any time, black can just Atari like this and capture. So it doesn't really matter. Therefore, in the actual game, white just connects. Black bumps into white. White had to block. Black harness, white extends, and black pushes, white blocks. And here, black turns over here. That's a sente. If you play somewhere else, then black is going to cut, right? And white is just dead. So white had to block. Black now clamps. That's a very nice endgame move. White connects, black Ataris, white connects, and black connects. And at this point, Tu Xiaoyu decided to resign after some endgames. So this was the last move in the game. I think the endgame prior to the fact that white didn't really play the best sequence in the corner was kind of not necessary because I mean black was already leading by quite a lot at this point. So the end game is more time for Tu Xiaoyu to kind of reflect on this game and then decide to resign. So overall, this has been a super high quality game, I think, by both players, right? So towards early game all the way to middle game, I think was just equal position. Both players played super well, but then Tu Xiaoyu fell behind because he missed the Hane Connect, which is absolutely huge. So this teaches us the lesson that in middle game, especially during fights, I think we should sometimes spend some time thinking about points, right? I know a lot of times you're in a very fierce fight, maybe you're trying to survive your dragon, but then yeah, that's a different type of game. But whenever you have the chance, you should always think about how many points you have and where are the biggest point making plays or where are the biggest end games. Because this is the reason why Tu Xiaoyu fell behind, because he wasn't paying attention to Hane Connect and he fell behind. But later on, Shin Jinseo gave him a chance after white plays the Kosumi to play a very accurate sequence and drag this game into chaos. But Tu Xiaoyu, under time pressure, was not able to find the sequence, and that's very normal. And eventually, Tu Xiaoyu lost this game, which brings this game to 1-1, and they will play the final game. And the final game is played, and I'm preparing for the commentary, and it should come out fairly soon. But I hope you guys enjoy this game too. I learned a lot from this game, especially the corner sequence. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.